ever heard of Cobra, Judy, or Retract Maple? Probably not, because these code names are for secret intelligence projects, classified weapons programs, all of which are part of the Pentagon's ultra-secret black budget. The black budget refers to a portion of Pentagon funding that's allocated entirely to activities that we're not allowed to know about. The concept started in the 1940s with something called the Manhattan Project, the program designated to build the atomic bomb. At that time, the U.S. government spent $2 billion constructing the ultimate weapon in total secrecy. Since then, the budget has grown larger and larger every year. In 1986, the budget included an $8 million price tag for a mysterious project codenamed Aurora. The following year, the amount for the same elusive project rose $22.3 billion, right before vanishing completely from the books. And although there is no certainty as to what Aurora actually was, aviation enthusiasts have speculated that it was the predecessor to the SR-71 Blackbird, a supersonic plane that spied on America's Cold War enemies. Money being thrown into a black hole in total secrecy. Sounds par for the course. Unfortunately, although we'll never know what these classified programs do entail, we do know how much is supposedly being spent on them. As of this year, the Pentagon's black budget was cited as $51 billion. The price tag is extremely important because it exposes that the U.S. military is spending more money in secret than what every other country in the world spends on their defense budgets combined. And this black budget under the Pentagon is just the tip of the iceberg. You see, this bloated budget doesn't even include the budget for the DoD or the CIA. So, what military toys are taxpayers footing the bill for now? To go over a few of the most secretive and wasteful projects that have been uncovered over the years, I'm joined by BTS producer Manuel Rapolo. How are you, man?
Good.
So, before we even get into what you've uncovered over the years, the concept of the black budget is so ridiculous because it's this vacuum, it's this black hole. We're just throwing our money into it. As we just said, I mean, it's more than all of the defense budgets of the entire countries in the world combined. It's just amazing. And we have no idea what's going on, what it's being spent on. And that doesn't even include the CIA or DoD. It blows my mind.
That's the most important point of what you said, because, I mean, we're talking about the Pentagon's black budget, right? That doesn't include how much we're spending on the military-industrial complex, the military intelligence program,
right,
which is covert operations that are going on, the type of raids that took down bin Laden, for example. And then there's the National Intelligence Program that overlooks the CIA and NSA, and we just uncovered the wiretapping thing. So, I mean, it shows you how widespread it is, and how much money goes into it is really the scary part. And it dates all the way back to the Cold War days, and even before that, you were talking about the atomic bomb.
And when this all started, I understood, I mean, Russia was comparable in terms of a threat to the U.S. I mean, there's mutually assured destruction. Now, there isn't that threat facing us, so it's really just bizarre that we continue to grow this bloated budget year after year. Talk about the POGO.
Sure. This is, you know, we were trying to think of examples that we could show, and I wonder if we have a photograph of the POGO. The POGO is an experimental aircraft that was designed during the Cold War to be able to do vertical takeoff. Whoever designed this was obviously on drugs, because it was, I mean, this thing, it's an airplane, but it's shaped like a rocket, so that you're sitting kind of facing up in the cockpit. You'd have to like look over your shoulder to be able to gauge how you're going to land this thing. So it flew once, landed. The project was scrapped, but, you know, it was done in complete secrecy. We, you know, years later, now it's in the National Air and Space Museum, so you hear about this
big waste of money.
Yeah.
Move on to DARPA. What's that?
No, this is the H-2B.
Oh, I'm sorry, the hypersonic test vehicle.
This was last year. We learned about this hypersonic vehicle developed by DARPA. This is under the PGS, the Prompt Global Strike Program. This thing is shaped like an arrowhead. It's designed to fly at Mach 20. That's 20 times the speed of sound. Each of these little experiments that they did cost $312 million. The second time that they tried to do an experiment on this, the skin, that metal skin on it, just ripped off, and it crashed into the Pacific Ocean into a giant $312 million splash.
You know, before just spending hundreds of millions of dollars of our money on stuff like this, you would think that they would have tested it and said, you know what, once this goes 20 times the speed of light, The skin's going to come off and it's not going to be operable.
And I think the more important thing is that like we're looking at this black budget, which is billions and billions of dollars. You'd think that it would at least be for good. You know, Mach 20, you'd fly from New York to LA in a matter of minutes. Yeah, it's never for anything positive.
Because that's all the Empire cares about. What is, okay, the F-22, now kind of morphed in the F-35 wasteful fighter jets.
This is the crown jewel of aircraft. I mean, the United States touted this, the F-22, the most advanced fighter ever built. They said there was no other plane that could match it. They spent $80 billion over 5 years on these aircrafts. The program has since been canceled. Each one of these things was worth $143 million a piece. It was never used. It's one of those, you know, your jewelry, your pearls that are too precious to wear. That was the F-22. It's since morphed into F-35. The F-35 is even a bigger waste of money. Again, never used, a ton of problems associated with it. It is a $400 billion program. It's actually too high profile to be black budget. I threw this in there just because it's a big waste of money.
It's like the government saying, like, we have too small of a penis, but we got the biggest military toys in the world.
Exactly. No, Dick Durbin came out just yesterday saying that if we don't cut back on what we're spending on these aircrafts, the F-35, we're looking at $1 trillion program over the next 50 years. And I mean, the thing is, like, how are you going to, at this point, we're asking the question, is it too big to not too big to fail, but too big to cut? Because it means jobs.
Exactly.
It means jobs.
And I think
that's
the
military-industrial complex.
That is the whole argument, is that there's this machine, and it's growing exponentially by the year, and it's just accumulating jobs and wealth for people. So people are actually opposed to cutting these programs because they're saying, well, where are we going to go? The problem is we need to shift the values in this country to more things that are not weapons and death and killing machines.
Absolutely. $120 billion that could be used on
space drone.
Yeah.
We got a space drone, dude.
This is
the Death Star floating above
space.
North Korea.
Space aircrafts can be traced back all the way to the 80s under the Reagan administration. You remember Star Wars?
Yeah.
That was the independent space program under the Defense Department.
When we cared about traveling.
Exactly.
To space.
So when we cared about traveling to space, this the space drone, Orbital Test Vehicle 3. We've covered this before on the show. This thing's in its first mission went into space for 225 days. It's now in its second mission. There's absolutely no information as to what it's doing out there, and it's under the Defense Department. So at one point it was a NASA, Boeing, Air Force project, but then in 2006 it was handed over to DARPA. This is an image of it right here.
Yeah.
Handed over to DARPA, and from that moment on, it went completely classified. So we have zero information as to what the mission is right now.
And you said that there's declassified documents showing that it actually it is hovering over North Korea at points. I mean, what the hell's going on here?
I don't know.
What is this? This is this giant hunk of metal floating in the sky. We don't know anything about it.
Zero information, but there it is, and it costs a lot of money, and we put it up there.
Well, that's great, and this isn't even to mention the private contractors of special operations that are going on with this budget.
That would be the #1 wasteful spending, is the amount of contractors. 108,000 from the last report we heard.
But they cost like 3 times more than regular military soldiers. Thank you so much, Manuel Rapalo, BTS producer.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Abby.
it.